Hello everybody, Chris Eden Green here. So this video is to answer some of the questions that people have been asking lately regarding DVDs and paid-only content and stuff. It's to talk about some of the situations and the reasons behind the decisions we've been making, and talk a little bit about the future of Steam Locos in Profile and where we intend to take it. Now, some of you have been saying recently that you've been unable to buy a copy of one of our DVDs, Steam Locos in Profile Volumes 1 and 2, because you're overseas. Just to reassure those people, first of all, our DVDs are delivered worldwide. Okay, so if you're in America, Australia, Europe, South Africa, wherever, we do deliver worldwide. We do charge at standard international UK rates, but it's just to ensure that we cover the postage costs. So it's the nearest equivalent to about £5 if you're in the United States, just over that if you're in Australia, and it varies elsewhere depending on what your location is. More to the point, the DVDs are coded Region 0. So, you know, if you're worried about a Region 2 DVD or Region 1 DVD being unable to play in your player, they will play anywhere. Region 0 plays everywhere throughout the world. So hopefully that settles some of the concerns that some people might have had. Okay, so let's talk about the main elephant in the room that some people have had issues with over the last few weeks. The paid-only content on YouTube. Yes, I know it hasn't been the most popular decision I've ever made, but let me just try and explain the reasons why we've gone down that road. So those of you who are not aware, we recently re-uploaded the first 8 episodes of Steam Locos in Profile, i.e. most of what's on the Volume 1 DVD, back up to YouTube with a charge of £2.49 per video, or the nearest international equivalent, so that for a one-off fee you can then stream it as much as you possibly like. These episodes being the Black 5s, Terriers, Castles, A4s, Bullieds, 5700 Panniers, U-boats and 4Fs. So let's get one thing perfectly clear from the outset. These are not new videos. Each of these episodes was online for at least 12 months before going on DVD. The LMS Black 5s video, which was the first episode of Steam Locos in Profile we ever made its public free debut on January the 6th, 2012, nearly 3 years before its demanded DVD release. Now, sure enough, many of you may not have been with us since the beginning. Steam Locos in Profile has been around for 4 years, and, you know, it started from very humble beginnings. It didn't just become an overnight success. It's taken years to build up its audience, and it still is building up that audience. So, you know, some of you may not have been familiar with our background. But then you have got to ask the basic business question. Why would you start giving something away for free when you're trying to sell it elsewhere? It doesn't really make that much sense. Now, sure enough, some people have been very disappointed about the idea of having to pay to watch our videos, and to some extent, I'm kind of with you. You know, when I started making this series in 2012, I had hoped that the advertising money alone would be enough to help keep the series going and therefore pay for its own keep. That was very optimistic. It was very optimistic indeed. The advertising money from the channel is barely into double figures every month. It's been lucky to be into double figures every month ever since we've been going. Even under Simon's deal, we didn't really make that much money with hindsight. It's only when the show went on DVD that any serious money started to come in, and we've been able to afford to continue making the show. And this paid-only content is just an option to help assist that. You know, some people have said that they've been unable to get a copy of the DVD, despite the fact that we do deliver worldwide and it's Region 0, blah, blah, blah. And I'm not holding anything against those people. You can only obtain a credit card, debit card, or use PayPal once you reach a certain age, and that's perfectly understandable. It's perfectly understandable, and I do sympathise. But, you know, if you expect us to work for nothing, that's slightly different. Now, don't get me wrong, the avenue of paid-only content is not something which I really wanted to take. You know, like I say, in an ideal world, the advertising money would be able to pay for the keep of this show alone, but it can't. And to those handful of people who were outraged at the idea of having to pay to watch our videos, did I want to make them paid only to watch? No. Do I want to make future episodes of Steam Locos in Profile paid only to watch from now on? No. Do I want to make Soul Slip and the Train Now Starring paid only? No. Do I want to make the whole channel paid only? No. But have I got to cover my costs and fight internet piracy? Yes, actually. You know, Steam Locos in Profile is a very expensive program to make. And it's largely because of the ground and the distance that we cover as a crew. You've only got to look at something like the Black 5s video to see how much distance we cover as a crew. Kent, London, the Mid-Hants Railway, the National Railway Museum, the Great Central Railway, Yorkshire, the North Yorkshire Moors Railway, the Keighley and Worth Valley Railway, the Scottish Highlands. That's pretty much the length of the United Kingdom in one video. And, you know, because these Black Fives have not been all operational at exactly the same time or in the same sort of period of time, that has to have been done over several trips. It can't just be done all in one continuous go. And travelling to these places is not cheap. You know, you've only got to look at the price of petrol or the price of train fares these days, or even entry to heritage railways alone. These organisations are not free-for-alls, nor should they be treated as free-for-alls. You have to pay to enter. So it does cost a lot of money. Like I say, Steam Locos in Profile, we've been making it for over 4 years. And the show is only just reaching a stage where it can start to pay for itself, thanks mostly to the DVDs and now, to some extent at least, the paid-only content. But to those of you who say that we're deliberately trying to rip you off, it's just an option to those who want to take it. It's not an obligation. It's not the only avenue that we're looking at to make these episodes more available across more platforms. You know, we're looking at iTunes and Google Play and other forms of digital downloads, but we're still in the experimental stages with that. As well as this, piracy. You know, piracy is everywhere these days, especially through YouTube. It's very easy to download videos from the internet, regardless of whether they got watermarkers or not, and we've been a victim of piracy over these years. There have been some occasions where some of my videos have been downloaded from my channel and re-uploaded on someone else's channel, be it on YouTube, Dailymotion, Vimeo, wherever. There's even torrenting websites out there who, as soon as you upload a video, it automatically takes the soundtrack from your video and puts that up as a download. So even now our videos are being torrented and we can't win. In the last 18 months or so it's happened about 3 times. So some of you may be thinking, well, it's 3 people, Chris, what's the big deal? Most of us aren't like that. And sure enough, most of you aren't like that. You're all very faithful, you're all very kind, you're all very supportive. I wouldn't be anywhere without you. But sometimes all it takes is just one person to bring an entire channel down. You know, bear in mind it was just the act of one person and one person alone who managed to bring Simon Poole's channel down not so long ago. Now, I may not be the most avid viewer of Simon Poole's work. No offence if you're watching, mate, it's nothing personal. But as a fellow creator, I respect what he does. You know, he puts his time and money to one side to go out of his way to make content for lots of people to watch and enjoy. And that's very noble, it's very commendable. Just like we do at Steam Locos in Profile and other shows. So it's disheartening really to see it being taken away from you. If you had put time, effort and money into something that you really enjoyed doing, would you like to see one person just randomly take it away from you? I don't think you would. And it doesn't matter what sort of context you put it in, that is still stealing. And stealing, whatever context you put it in, is still a crime. It's not funny, it's not clever, it's not right, it's not legal. That's all there is to it. Since we started doing this, there have been some people who've come forward and outrightly said publicly that they expect to watch our videos for nothing and that we're not worth paying for. I'm not going to name any names for obvious reasons, but I think some of those people don't seem to realise that what they're actually saying is they expect an artist to work for nothing. And I know that lots of people video on the internet for a hobby, but videoing is still a form of art. Just like music, just like graphic design, photography, whatever, it's still an art form. And when filmmakers are asked to work for nothing, that's a big no-no. My professional work, especially nowadays, barely keeps me. It doesn't have much left over for Steam Locos in Profile. It has to earn its own keep, unfortunately. Speaking of earning keeps, somebody came up to me recently and said, people on heritage railways work for nothing, so why can't you? There is some truth in that statement, but there's also a lot of misconception, I think. Now, it is true that heritage railways all over the world do rely on people who work for nothing. You know, drivers, firemen, signalmen, station staff, permanent way gangs, they're all volunteers. Now, it's true that some of them employ a handful of full-time staff for managerial purposes and so on, but most of them do give up their free time. However, the heritage railways in question do have to earn their own keep if they're going to operate at all, which is why they have to charge for tickets, for subscription fees, for food from the cafes, for presents from the gift shop, and so on. If somebody like the Bluebell or the Talyllyn or the Great Central or so on was treated as a free-for-all for everyone to just turn up and ride on as many trains as they want for nothing, who's going to pay for the coal bills and the track maintenance? Blimey, even the paint on fences and notice boards has to come from somewhere. It has to be paid for. It doesn't just magically materialise out of hope. And it's certainly no good just expecting all the members of these railways to subsidise the line's operation, because they've got their own living to make. You know, they've got cars and houses and families and taxes to pay and so on, so how can you expect them to earn their keep while all their resources goes towards subsidising the railway they work for? It doesn't work. And it's the same thing with Steam Locos in Profile and filmmaking in general. It's not cheap. Even when things are done on a shoestring budget, Steam Locos in profile is expensive. And I'm sorry if this isn't the direction that some people want us to take, because it's not the direction that I really want to take either. But as the advertising money hasn't worked out and piracy has become a problem for us, it has become more of a necessity as time has gone by. The good news is that while this hasn't been a very popular decision, it has at least helped. You know, after this paid only thing came in, the channel has started to earn more money. So it's an option, and it's an option that some people are at least choosing to take it, which is fairly reasonable. So to those of you who are disappointed by this decision, again, very sorry. But the tragedy is that while piracy is there and while we have to cover costs, it is becoming more of a necessity as time goes by. So that's just about all there is to it, really. So where does this mean that we're going to go with Steam Locos in profile from here? Well, the good news is we're not going to make brand new episodes of Steam Locos in profile paid only from now on. What we're planning to do instead, at least for the foreseeable future, is once episode 16 comes out, which is on target for April the 22nd, still not saying what it is, but you'll find out when it's released, we'll keep the 4 latest episodes of the show free at any given time. So once episode 16 comes out, more than half of the episodes of Volume 2 will go over to paid only, but it will still leave the Great Western Halls, the 8Fs, the 9Fs, and episode 16 free. Then when episode 17 comes out, the halls will go over to paid only, and that'll leave the 8Fs, 9Fs, 16 and 17 free. And we'll just leave the 4 latest episodes continuously free at any given time. That way each new episode gets a free 12-month cycle before it goes over to paid only and eventually onto DVD. In regards to DVD, like I said in the outtakes and preview video from last year, it's highly unlikely that Volume 3 will get released this year. It's on target at least for the back end of next year to celebrate the 5th anniversary of Steam Locos in profile, along with the 5th anniversary bonus film. We're still not certain over what it's going to be. It kind of depends on what money's available and that sort of thing. But we are looking at overseas, possibly America. Again, it entirely depends on what money's available. We may have to crowdfund something, we may have to seek funding from a benefactor or sponsorship or something like that, because it is going to cost thousands of pounds to go abroad. But it is something that we want to do, it's something we're looking into. We'll keep you posted on that front. Will there be other things apart from Steam Locos in profile? Well, yes, there'll be more Train Now Starring, there'll be more Soul Slip. We're also looking at a new Q&A style show along the sort of lines of James May's Head Squeeze, plug, where we go into more specific detail about certain questions regarding railway factoids and trivia and history and so on, and just go into more the nitty-gritty details that we often tend to overlook in Steam Locos in profile because we try not to get too specialist on that front. So keep your eyes peeled on that. And I guess there's not much else to say. Thanks for paying attention. Hope to see you again in the future. Look after yourselves. Take care.